Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Ramblings of a Madman. This is the host, Mark Ciccarella, speaking. And what we're bringing to you today is the first episode of a podcast that I had the idea of thinking. I thought of the idea back one day when I was watching Seinfeld on Hulu, and Seinfeld's a show about nothing. That's the tagline, if you will. It's a show about nothing. And I was like, well, why don't I do a podcast about nothing? Every episode just talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about and go forth from there and see if I can build up some sort of an audience for myself. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about spirituality, a little thing called apeirophobia that I deal with, and we're going to be talking about all different things that go with apeirophobia and how it's brought me to become a more spiritual person in general. And it used to be a thing that terrified me, but now it's I look back and I think, like, damn, this really, if I didn't have that fear, I probably wouldn't be in the mindset that I am in now. So kind of like a higher elevated mindset. You look back and think, well, now I'm wiser and I have all this, I don't know if I want to call it wisdom or knowledge, but like understandings that I didn't have before. So yes, essentially that is what Ramblings of a Madman is going to be. Just every episode I'm going to talk about what I feel like talking about. I think I'll drive myself nuts trying to stick to one topic and only talk about that topic and limit myself to it seems like a creative prison, trying to limit your brain to only be able to talk about one topic. I will say that the majority of the episodes are probably going to be on a few different topics. I love to talk about spirituality, and there's a whole bunch of things you can talk about when it comes to spirituality, and so I also like to talk about politics in a non-conventional way. I don't consider myself a leftist. I don't consider myself a conservative. I don't support Trump. I don't support Biden. I consider myself a political realist, if we're going to be honest, but today's episode's not on anything political, so we're not going to talk about politics today. We're also going to be talking about the occult, maybe some conspiracy theories, and those two definitely tie together. I think spirituality and religion, and in general, and politics and the occult, they all tie together and form these things called conspiracy theories. And when on the episodes that I talk about conspiracy theories, I'll go more in depth into the theories and the ideologies behind the claims that the political elite are basically just followers of some kind of weird spiritual occultism. So yeah, we'll get into all sorts of topics, and like I said, today's going to be about spirituality and how I came to be where I am with my current spirituality, if you will. So it all really started back when I was young. Very young, actually. I'd say around 5 or 6, I was raised quote-unquote Catholic. So yeah, I was raised quote-unquote Catholic. I had to go to Sunday school every Sunday when I was younger. And, throughout elementary school and I think up to 7th or 8th grade, I had to go to Sunday school. And it's not like my parents were perfect fucking Catholics. They weren't. They were pretty far from it. But they'd be damned if I wasn't going to make my first Holy Communion and confirmation and go to confession. So yeah, I had to go to Sunday school, and ever since I was a very young age, like I think it was first grade Sunday school. I remember getting like really terrified of the idea of just burning on fire in a lake of fire, burning forever and ever in hellfire and brimstone. That idea terrified the fuck out of me. Sometimes I couldn't go to sleep at night because it's all I could think about. And they tell you Jesus will save you, right? And they tell you have nothing to worry about as long as you believe in Jesus and you confess your sins and all that. And you go to confession and you're a brand new man. You can go out and sin all over again and come back and confess and you're good. But that just never made sense to me. It never made sense to me that I could go out and kill somebody and then I could go to tell the priest one-on-one and then I'd be okay. And it was just little things like that that made me start questioning reality and what reality actually is. And again, I was like 5 or 6 years old at the time when this next thing happened. I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I remember being at my grandmother's house, and I think I had come from Sunday school in the morning actually, and I was thinking about how what they tell you heaven is like in Sunday school, and how basically they tell you, well, when you die, and if you go to heaven, it's paradise when you die, and if you go to heaven, it's supposed to be paradise. Paradise, and they describe it as you'll be with your friends and your family and your loved ones, and you'll all be worshiping God and singing songs and of Catholic hymns, and that just sounded fucking horrible to me. The thought of spending an eternity, forever and ever and ever, without end, just in worship of a higher being, and just not being able to speak out of line or to not. I would feel so guilty because I would think to myself, like, I'm going to get bored. I remember asking my mom, is there going to be video games in heaven? Because what the fuck am I going to do? I'm going to go nuts. I would go nuts in heaven. Standing there worshiping, singing songs, and all in praise of God. And having those thoughts, like I'm gonna get bored, that made me feel really fucking guilty. But I couldn't help it, because in my mind it sounded like heaven and hell were the exact same thing. Eternal boredom or eternal burning. What difference does it make? I would think, like, so I'm gonna die, I'll go to heaven, and then I'll be standing there in the sky and watching everything happen on Earth for forever and ever. And basically, the way my 6-year-old mind thought of it was, I'll see wars, and I'll see kingdoms, and then I'll see the kingdoms after that. And I was like, oh shit, I'll see the kingdoms after that, and the ones that come after that, forever and ever. I can't tell you why thinking about like kingdoms and imperialism in the future decades and centuries was what made me, really start questioning things. But it did, and I was like, that's kind of eerie, just that it would just go on forever, and like there's nothing I can do about it. And I just had to sit there and watch the world go on forever and just worship this God and sing songs and forever and ever and ever. How the hell is that paradise? Not that it sounds any better than or worse than burning for an eternity and forever and ever. The fact that this existence, this mind, could go on forever just fucking terrified me to my soul. And to some extent, it still does, every now and then. I remember also being young, maybe late elementary school, early middle school, going to the movies. And I would be thinking to myself, what if life is just a movie? What if there are people in some other world or some other dimension or somewhere out there sitting down in the movie theater watching what's happening through my eyes? I remember having those thoughts as a young child. And, and those thoughts just made me feel guilty because, I was taught to believe in the Catholic faith. And even though, like, I knew heaven didn't sound any better than hell, I just couldn't shake the guilt. And eventually, like, I just dealt with it. And, I tried to force myself to make myself believe that I believed in Jesus. Actually, I started talking to my great-grandfather about it. Because the rest of my family was Catholic, but he was a born-again Christian. And he would tell me, you don't have to worry about going to hell. As long as you believe in Jesus, all your sins are forgiven. You don't have to go to confession. You'll go to heaven. And that'll be it. He said you could go and rob a bank. This is an actual quote he told me. He said, you can go and rob a bank, but as long as you believe in Jesus, you'll be forgiven. It'll be like Jesus has sunglasses on, and everything you do is righteous. That's exactly what he told me. Now, my great-grandfather was a great man. He wasn't a criminal. He didn't do any heinous acts or despicable things. He was a great man. He was troubled in his early life, but towards the end, he was a great man, and I miss him a lot. He was very smart, and but yeah, and I tried to make myself believe in that for a while. I kind of abandoned those fears of heaven itself, the everlasting paradise of praising and singing songs and hymns and just watching the world, the earth, forever and ever. I abandoned those fears. I forced myself to abandon them, and I told myself that I believed in Jesus and I accepted Jesus on the cross, and like I would read the Bible regularly. So yeah, there were all these experiences I had that were when I was very young that just I guess normal kids don't really have those thoughts. Normal kids don't really question their own existence or their own reality, and it's just something that it's always been with me ever since a young age. Like I said, about 5 or 6, I would just think differently and think more in depth into everything. And I have another example. My grandfather, my mom's stepfather. I used to spend a lot of time with him when I was a young child, and we would watch tons of movies together. We would watch like all the old action films, like Chuck Norris films, and from the '80s, the Terminator films and Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we'd also watch Steven Seagal films, and also like films like Roadhouse. But I remember there was this one day, in particular, we were watching a Steven Seagal action movie. I don't remember the name. They're all very similar, cheesy, but I just couldn't shake the thought that Steven Seagal is supposed to be the good guy, and he's the good guy in the movie, and he's killing the bad guys. And I kind of had a panic attack, and I was thinking to myself, well, how can he be the good guy if he's still killing all these people? And what's going to happen to all these people when they die? Are they all going to go to hell? And Steven Seagal's character, is he going to go to hell too? And then I remember literally having a panic attack, going to my mother, and telling her I'm scared that I'm going to go to hell for watching it. And basically she just reassured me that I wasn't going to go to hell, and everything was going to be okay, and I was going to go to heaven, and everything was going to be perfect. And I think that was before I had the epiphany, or the realization that to me heaven sounds worse or just as bad as hell. And so that calmed me down for a bit. And yeah, so those are my experiences that those are the three experiences that really stick out to me now from when I was a younger kid, and I think really helped to shape how I've come to recognize my own spirituality now as a 21-year-old man. And when I sit there and think about how far I've come in terms of spirituality, and I think about how far I have left to go. I mean, I'm only 21. I still have another 50 to 60 or 70 years left on this earth. And it just amazes me how much there is, there's a never-ending wealth of knowledge out there, and never think you know it all, because there's always somebody who knows more than you. There's always somebody who knows more than you, and there's always more to know, and there's always more that you're able to know. You just have to find it. So when I got into high school, I started to slip away from the Catholicism, or the reborn Christianity in general. I put my Bible away. It was a Bible that my grandfather had given me. It was a nice leather-bound King James Version Bible, and he got it specifically for me. He wrote a note for me in it, and when he passed away, I didn't find the note until like the day or two after he passed away, because there was a couple blank pages in the front. I always skipped over them. Then a day or two after he passed away, I opened it and saw the note that he had written me. It was something like, "May let every man be a liar if God is telling the truth," something along those lines. And so yeah, that Bible meant a lot to me. But in high school, I put it away and refused to look at it, and I tried to make myself believe that nothing mattered. I guess nihilism in a sense. I'm not too familiar with the philosophies of nihilism, but I guess the core aspect of it is that you believe in nothing. We exist for no reason. And nothing happens when we die. It just goes blank, right? And that's what I tried to make myself believe for a while, that nothing mattered. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to be the same whether you're dead, when you're dead, whether or not you were a good or a bad person. So just live your life to your fullest and don't really worry about it. And even now thinking about that, that sounds awesome. That sounds like a great way to live. Live and let live. Do as you please and let others do as they please. And it is. It's a very appealing way to live, at least. Don't worry about what you can't control and all that stuff. I have a lot of friends. My great friend John, that's the way he lives. We talk a lot about spirituality. Maybe I'll have him on as a guest one day. But so yeah, that's how I tried to make myself live for a while in high school. And it lasted for a few years, I'll say. And it was fine. I didn't really, I'm not gonna say I didn't have any panic attacks about the unknown. I'll say, because I did, but they weren't as consistent. And then towards the end of high school, I really started to think, well, there's got to be something more. Because even last night, I had these thoughts that go through my mind. I'll yawn, and then I'll just have this thought to myself, how fucking crazy is it that we even exist in the first place? If you look around you, you see all these things, and you look at yourself in the mirror, you fucking exist. And that's fucking wild. And there has to be a point to that. That can't just be for nothing. This can't be a fucking accident. And science says it is. I don't believe in the religion of scientism. I believe that science should be debated. And it should be up to you whether or not you want to accept what a scientist and his research will say. But yeah, I just kept having this feeling, that this doesn't exist for no reason. We don't exist for no reason. We have all these real emotions, and we cry and we bleed and we get angry, and all this happens for a reason. It's not the sugar coated everything happens for a reason where you get dumped and your mom tells you, oh, everything happens for a reason, honey, don't worry. No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, I think there's a bigger picture here that we don't see. Even I don't see. I say I've learned and I've become more wise and knowledgeable about these types of things. In my own opinion, I've become more wise and knowledgeable about these types of things, but I don't have the bigger picture. I don't think anybody has the bigger picture. So yeah, towards the end of high school, I would have panic attacks because there's something bigger here, and I'm ignoring it, and I'm not trying to find the pieces to the puzzle. I'm not trying to fit the puzzle together, And eventually that led to me, just researching into different things. And one thing that really stuck with me when I started to become more spiritual was the fear of heaven. And I really dwelled on that fear. I thought about it a lot, and it terrified me a lot more than I ever had done before. So I did some research, and I kept researching, and I realized that I had this phobia, I guess it would be called. I mean, I've never been clinically diagnosed by a psychiatrist for this phobia, so if you want to kill me for that, go ahead. But I'm going to say I had this phobia called apeirophobia. And basically what it is, it's technically, the definition is the fear of infinity, but it also means the fear of eternity, the fear of forever. The fact that this could most definitely possibly go on forever and ever. You could die and you can go to heaven, and it could go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and so on and so forth, forever and ever, past the end of time. Not until the end of time, past the end of time. Just forever and ever without end. And that just, so for some people, it just terrifies them to their soul. And it's something that it's very hard for people who don't have this fear to understand. Dude, what does it matter if everything lasts forever? Wouldn't eternal heaven be better than eternal hell? I guess in a sense. But the heaven I was taught to believe in as a young child does not sound better than eternal hell. And the fact, even this life here, even this life that we're living right now, can anyone say that they really want it to last forever? Can anyone say that they really want to go on? They would love to be immortal and just watch and just live forever and ever. And I would think, well, for me personally, that would drive me insane. It would drive me insane to realize that this is going to keep on going and going and going and going and going, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Not that I'm suicidal, because I'm not. But for as much as death scares me, there is also some comfort in knowing that at least something stops, at least for a little while. I I currently believe in reincarnation, and I'm not talking about like Buddhist reincarnation. Although Buddhist teachings, I do believe in a bit of Buddhist teachings, a bit of Gnostic teachings, a bit of biblical teachings as well. There's some truth. There's some truth everywhere in these ancient teachings. But as far as Buddhists go, when how they believe that you can be reincarnated as bugs and animals and stuff, I don't believe in that. I really like the idea that the ancient Gnostics had, where basically they believe that the God of the Bible is evil, right? Because it makes sense, right? I mean, if you go back and without the bias that is given to you by Sunday school or by your preacher or your pastor or your priest or your father or your mother, that they tell you God loves you and God is all loving and He loves you and He has a plan for you, honey. If you remove that bias and you go back and read the Bible and you see how God actually acts in the Bible and how He speaks and what He does to people, I mean, it's kind of hard to say that He's not an evil God, right? I mean, He kills more people in the Bible than any other character. He plays mind games with people. He made Abraham almost kill his son. And then he was just like, nah, I'm just kidding, bro. You don't got to do it. Even the story with the Pharaoh. He hardened the Pharaoh's heart to make him go against his own will. So the ancient Gnostics had a point there. The God of the Bible is an evil God. So they believed that the God of the Bible was an evil God called the Demiurge. But they didn't believe He was the biggest God or the Almighty God or the Most High God. They believed that the God of the Bible trapped us here in this reality, a false reality, if you will. And the only way to get out of this false reality and to obtain the knowledge, the true knowledge of the Most High God, if you will. Obtaining that knowledge is the only way to get out of this reality. And to enter a state of godliness. This is what Plato believed in. And it goes back to even if you go back and look at Buddhist teachings, they believe that we are all gods. And I think there's really something in that. We're taught from a very young age that we're just humans, you know. We're just humans and nothing means anything, you know, it's the Big Bang and all that. And then you have the contradicting beliefs that if you were raised religiously, that, you know, God started everything. Or Allah started everything, or whatever religion you believed in, whatever God you believed in, they started everything. And, you know, we had these contradicting beliefs, and if you're in America, the school system teaches you that everything started from the Big Bang. And it very well could have. But I wasn't around to see it. I wasn't around to confirm whether or not that's how everything started. So yeah, we're taught from the very beginning of our educational lives, if you will, you know, that this all kind of happened on accident. You know, the Big Bang, the odds of that happening were infinitely crazy. We're kind of taught to, you know, indulge in the pleasures of life and live and let live. And I do believe in live and let live. Because I don't believe that everybody has the spirituality or the spiritual maturity, I guess I would say, to obtain this, you know, the higher level of thinking. You know, in Buddhism they refer to it as the path to enlightenment, or if you become enlightened. Not everybody has the spiritual maturity to become enlightened. And so I've been really interested in getting into meditation. I want to learn how to meditate. I want to learn how to, you know, become more in tune with the earth, you know, with nature. You know, I really want to try psychedelics. I want to try shrooms and DMT. I've never tried acid. I smoked a lot of weed in my life. I've never tried acid. I never tried anything other than weed. But I really want to try shrooms and DMT strictly because of the stories that I've heard and how they grow your spirituality, and how everybody who does DMT, the videos that I see of their trip reports of them coming down from their trips and you know, reporting what they've seen, all the videos seem like so similar. And that amazes me that so many people would have like such similar trips and learn similar thing, and they all come out of it. Not I'm not gonna say they all, but a lot of people come out of their trips just wanting to hug their brother, if you will, and be peaceful and just live. You know, I think that's beautiful. I mean, Joe Rogan interviewed Mike Tyson about DMT. We all know Joe Rogan's a DMT enthusiast, and I don't really like Joe Rogan, but his interview with Mike Tyson about DMT was very good. I thought it was interesting that that Mike Tyson said if he had tried DMT before he started fighting, he might never have been a fighter. That it changed the way he thought about things, and I guess because Mike Tyson was known for being a mean motherfucker. He had a lot of anger, and he took out his anger on a lot of people. So I don't know if the DMT would have made him not interested in fighting, but I think it would have impacted him in a way where he wouldn't have been as lethal with his punches. All those 30-second knockouts he had, first round knockouts. They wouldn't. I don't think they would have been there, and I think he thinks they wouldn't have been there had he had tried DMT earlier and in the beginning stages of his career. I just thought that was extremely interesting that Mike Tyson, would say that. And of course, he recently fought about a month ago. He fought, and they were both old and out of shape. Well, Mike Tyson was in good shape, but they were old, and it wasn't a very exciting fight. And Mike Tyson wasn't as angry as he was back in fucking the late '80s. Where he was having all those fucking first round knockouts. And a lot of that has to do with age. I'm not saying that's all because of the DMT, but it's definitely interesting to think about. Definitely very, very interesting. And I also want to try shrooms because I mean everybody who I know now have heard of some bad trips. I'm not going to say people don't have bad trips, because people have bad trips all the fucking time. But I think that's a risk you have to take. I mean, it's going to end. It's not going to last forever if you do have a bad trip. And I think the pros outweigh the cons here. On one hand, you could have a bad trip that might last for an hour or a few hours. But on the other hand, you could have a beautiful trip. And you become one with nature, and you can learn more about yourself and the universe and the earth and the trees. And it sounds like hippie shit, and I guess it is hippie shit. But at the end of the day, if it's beautiful, why wouldn't I want to experience it? Now, acid, on the other hand, acid is a different beast. DMT is known as the strongest hallucinogen, but acid is just, I've seen too many people get fucked up permanently from acid to even want to try. I mean, the effects are appealing, and I would love to experience it, but it's not worth it to me. I mean, I know it takes a lot of fucking acid to permanently fuck yourself up, but that's not a chance I'm willing to take. I feel like with my luck, I'd do a tab of acid and fucking be psycho-schizophrenic for the rest of my life. But yeah, I mean, so that's pretty much who I am spiritually at this moment. I mean, granted, this could change. A year from now, I could be believing something totally different. And that's okay, because it's all just one big puzzle. You use the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom that you gain throughout your life to build up to the bigger moments. It's kind of like altering your consciousness, becoming of a higher consciousness, and that's basically what I want to be. Is I want to be of a higher consciousness. I want to, unlock that secret knowledge that Plato believed in, or I want to be enlightened like the Buddhists believe in. That's just very appealing to me, and I think it makes a lot more sense trying to become enlightened, or it's a lot less fearful or scary worrying about becoming enlightened than it is worrying about going to hell. It's definitely a lot less scary to believe in enlightenment, or to believe in that secret knowledge, and to believe that your purpose on earth is to obtain that knowledge, to obtain that enlightenment. It's a lot less scary to believe in all that than it is to believe that there's a strict set of rules that you have to follow, and if you don't follow those rules, you're going to be tortured for all of eternity. All of eternity, forever and ever. It'll never end. You're just going to be fucking tortured. And if you do good, if you happen to do good, and you follow the rules that this man-made religion sets out for you, well, then you get to go to heaven. You get to worship some more and keep following those rules for all of eternity, and not get to have any fun. And I mean, fuck, even the Muslims get 72 versions. Fuck do Catholics get? So yeah, that's who I am spiritually. It's pretty simple. It's pretty laid back. And if you really sit back and think about it, it makes a lot of sense. At least in my mind. It gives your life more purpose than just believing in nothing like a nihilist. It keeps you from being a fanatic, really, because there's really nothing to be a fanatic about. I mean, you could have a strong urge and desire to find this hidden knowledge or to become enlightened, and that's okay, but it's not like there's something to become a religious fanatic about. You know, like Westboro Baptist Church, or we're not coming for anybody's lies, we're not burning anybody at the stake or torturing people like the Spanish Inquisition. I can do a whole episode on the Catholic Church and how much I fucking hate the Catholic Church and how it's just horrible. And I probably will do an episode on the Catholic Church one day. Little boys aren't being molested because of this, unlike in Catholicism. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I guess it is a little bit complex to understand, but once you just understand that, once you come to the understanding that there's more to our existence than just existing and just obeying rules, and I find it pretty easy to live that way. I mean, I can tell you, ever since I started believing in this, my panic attacks and my anxiety levels have decreased a lot. I mean, I still have the anxiety from, you know, this world that we live in, this society, this COVID society, this, you know, the economy shutting down, the fears of being laid off, and, you know, trying to save money, and you know, that stuff all causes stress and anxiety, but like nothing like the anxiety I was having over the fear of eternity, or the fear of hell, or the fear of heaven, and that's pretty awesome, I will say. I mean, I recommend that if you're going through something similar, look into how Plato believed, and what Plato believed in ancient Gnostic teachings, and look into Buddhist teachings and stuff that might seem a little bit bizarre to you. Look into the simulation theory, because the ancient Gnostic, you know, religion is basically just the simulation theory, right? I mean, if this is a simulation, think about it. If you think about it, if this is a simulation, right? I mean, there's got to be a point to it. Like, we've all seen The Matrix. There was a point to the simulation in that. I'm not saying that that's what's going on. I'm not saying this is the fucking Matrix, because I don't believe this is the Matrix. I don't believe this is a simulation, although the simulation theory is very similar to what the ancient Gnostics believes. They believe that the demiurge, the evil god of the Bible, trapped you in this false reality, which would be AKA a simulation. Simulation, I sound like Sam Tripoli. A simulation designed to keep you here. And, you know, and if you don't learn this, if you don't gain the secret knowledge or the godly knowledge, or you don't become enlightened, then when you die, you just get reborn into this earth and you start all over, and it's just an endless cycle. And I would think that's what would happen in the simulation theory. I mean, there's all different types of theories of what happens after death in the simulation. But I would think it would make a lot of sense if you're just, you know, you respawn, you're reborn, right? So that's about it for episode 1. Again, this episode was just the first of hopefully many more to come. You know, this episode was on spirituality, my personal spirituality, and what I believe in, and how I think, and how my mind works, you know, spiritually. In the future, I'm going to be talking about lots of topics, lots and lots of topics. I can't wait to talk about conspiracy theories with you guys. I can't wait to have my guests on. Hopefully my friend John will get on here. Hopefully Zork's Mike will get on. I got a friend who recently, she started streaming. Maybe I can have her on. Maybe I can get Froggy on, and we'll talk about video games and maybe some anime as well. We'll talk about politics eventually. Talk about conspiracy theories. I plan on doing a whole episode on Pizzagate and Jeffrey Epstein, episodes on the occult and their ties to conspiracy theories and the political elite, the people who really run this fucking world, and how they're all into some really fucked up occult shit. I mean, I don't know if you ever seen the artwork inside John Podesta's house. It'd be hard to convince you that he's not into some fucked up shit. But yeah, if you tuned in and you enjoyed this, subscribe or follow this podcast, however you're listening to it. If it's on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcasts, just follow us. Give me a chance. If this gets big enough and you guys like me, I'll put out some merch. Shit. Just give me a chance to make some good content, keep you guys entertained, keep me sane, get to vent all this shit out. Have some interesting guests on. Maybe I'll get my boy Taylor from Mississippi to come on and talk about Bat Mike. Oh, Bat Mike's a character. But yeah, I seriously want to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the first episode of Ramblings of a Madman. My name is Mark. Some people call me Rasta, but I am the madman that's being referred to in the title. I hope you all have a wonderful day and keep on keeping on.